Hello and welcome to Pre-Algebra Lesson 47. In this video, we're going to be converting between US units of measurement. So our lesson objective for today, we want to learn how to change between US units of measurement. All right, so we're just going to start by looking at the relationship between a few common units of measurement. We're not going to cover all the possibilities here, but just a few of the basics so that we can kind of get our brain thinking about converting units. All right, so we have here length. So here are three common ones. We have that 12 inches equals 1 foot. We have that 3 feet equals 1 yard. And we have that 5,280 feet equals 1 mile. All right, let's look at weight. We have that 16 ounces equals 1 pound. And we have that 2,000 pounds equals 1 ton. For volume, we have that 2 cups equals 1 pint. 2 pints equals 1 quart. And 4 quarts equals 1 gallon. And then lastly, for time, we have 60 seconds equals 1 minute. 60 minutes equals 1 hour, 24 hours equals 1 day, and 7 days equals 1 week. Now, based on the circumstances of your life, you may know all of these, you may know none of them. So try not to stress out too badly about memorizing these right away. As you work a lot of practice problems, you will memorize these relationships very, very quickly. And a lot of them you probably already know. For example, 60 seconds equals 1 minute. I think everybody knows that. Or 60 minutes equals 1 hour. 24 hours equals 1 day, so on and so forth. So the ones that you don't know, as you work through the practice problems, you'll pick it up very quickly. So let's start out our lesson by just asking a simple question. If we are asked to convert 5,280 feet into miles, it's pretty simple. So we know that 5,280 feet is equal to 1 mile. And we saw that earlier when we were looking at the provided relationship between units. But what happens when we want to convert 6,600 feet into miles? So if I said 6,600 feet equals how many miles? Well, let's go through the process so that we can get the answer here. So our first step is just to set up something called a unit fraction. And let me highlight this because this is going to be important for you to know. A unit fraction shows the relationship between units and has a value of 1. So that part is very, very important. The fact that it has a value of 1, because remember, when we multiply by 1, even if it's a complicated form of 1, like we saw with fractions, it does not change the value of the number, right? If I take the number 4 and I multiply by 3 over 3, right? This is a complicated form of 1. So 4 times 3 is 12 over 3. 12 over 3 is the same thing as 4. Right? If I do the division, 12 divided by 3, I get 4 back. So it's going to be the same thing here. We're going to be multiplying by a complicated form of 1. For example, if I have 5,280 feet, and that's equal to 1 mile, well, if I write 5,280 feet over 1 mile, this is going to have a value of 1. Right? It's the same thing over itself, right? It's the same distance. It just looks different because it has different units involved, right? This has feet and this is based on miles. So now that we understand what a unit fraction is, to actually perform the conversion, again, you identify the relationship between the units. So in our case, again, 5,280 feet is equal to 1 mile. If you didn't know that from memory, you'd have to look that up and then gain that relationship. Now, the next thing you want is to write the unit fraction with the unit of measure you want to end up with in the numerator. So recall that we had 6,600 feet, and we wanted to know how many miles. How many miles? So the unit I want to end up with is miles. This is what I'm trying to get to. So I'm going to write the unit fraction, again, with the unit measure you want to end up with in the numerator. So because I want miles in the numerator, I'm going to have 1 mile over 5,280 feet. This is my unit fraction. Remember, this has a value of 1. And it's just about taking the relationship between the units and putting, again, the units that you want to end up with in the numerator. I want to end up with miles in the numerator, so that's why I wrote it this way. If I was doing something where I was converting to feet and I wanted to end up with feet, I would just flip this. I would have 5,280 feet on top. I would have 1 mile on the bottom. All right, then we want to multiply what you're trying to convert by the unit fraction. So let's go ahead and do that real quick and see what we come up with. So we had 6,600 feet, and we're going to multiply this by the unit fraction. Again, it was 1 mile on top over 5,280 feet on the bottom. Now, the reason we want the units that we want to end up with on top is because this is what we're going to end up with. The units that we're trying to get rid of are going to cancel out when we write it this way. Feet over feet will just cancel, so we don't have to worry about them. Basically, what I have here is, forget about this unit for a second. That's going to just carry itself over. So we'll put miles over here. And we're just going to think about, okay, what is 6,600 times 1 over 5,280? Well, basically, that's just a division problem, right? It's 6,600 divided by 5,280. And we would just divide this. We know that this will only go into 6,600 once. And multiply 5,280. And we're going to subtract. 0 minus 0 is 0. I need to borrow here. So this will become 5, and then this will become 10. So now we can do 10 minus 8, that's 2. 5 minus 2 is 3. 6 minus 5 is 1. Now we're going to continue the division. So let me scroll down here so we have room to do this. I'm going to put my decimal point here and bring it up into the answer. Put a 0 here and bring it down. So for 5,280, how many times can I go into 13,200? Well, if you just eyeball this, if you just approximate this number to 5,000, 5,000 times 3 would be 15,000. That's too big. So the best we can do here is 2. I'm going to put a 2 here, and I'm going to multiply. 2 times 5,280. Let's do that down here. So 5,280 times 2. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 8 is 16. 6 down, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 2 times 5 is 10. So 10,560. So 10,560. So again, let's subtract. 0 minus 0 is 0. And we need to borrow again over here. So I'm going to borrow from this 2. This will become 1. This will become 10. 10 minus 6 is 4. And then we need to borrow again. This will become 2. This will become 11. 11 minus 5 is 6. And then 2 minus 0 is 2. 1 minus 1 is 0. So I have 2,640. Let's put another 0 so we can continue the division and bring that down. And so we'll have 26,400 now. So if I kind of eyeball this again, I know 5,000 would go into 25,000 5 times. So I know it's at least a 5. Let's think about this 280 part. So let me go down here again. So 5,280 times 5. What would that give us? 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 8 is 40. So 0 down, carry the 4. 5 times 2 is 10. Plus 4 is 14. 4 down, carry the 1. 5 times 5 is 25. Plus 1 is 26. So this is exactly what we're looking for. 26,400. So we know that the answer here for 5,280 goes into 26,400. That's going to be 5. So 5 times 5,280, again, is 26,400. Subtracting gets 0. So I just need this part, this 1.25. I can erase everything else. And basically at this point, I can just answer this by putting 1.25 here. And our unit conversion is done, right? It's actually that simple. Probably the harder part is just memorizing the units if you're required to do that. If your teacher gives you like a little cheat sheet, this is actually a piece of cake, right? You're just multiplying with fractions basically. So 6,600 feet is equal to 1.25 miles. And again, all you do is you multiply what you start out with by a unit fraction where the relationship you want to end up with, in this case it was miles, so we have mile up here, is in the numerator. If you can just remember that, this is no harder than just multiplying with fractions. All right, let's take a look at another one. So we have 360 seconds to minutes. So what's the relationship between seconds and minutes? Well, I know that 60 seconds equals 1 minute. So again, this is always your first step. Just show the relationship between the units. How much of one is equal to how much of another? Now I'm going to set up a unit fraction. So I'm going from seconds to minutes. All right, so I want to end up with minutes. So that means I'm going to write this where I have minutes in the numerator, or in this case, because it's singular, I'm going to have 1 minute in the numerator. So I'm going to write 360 seconds times, again, 1 minute's going to be in the numerator, over 60 seconds, that's going to be in my denominator. Let's scroll down a little bit and get some room going. Now, once you've set this up, you've basically done all the hard work, because seconds over seconds is going to cancel. I don't need to worry about the units anymore because I know this is what's going to be left over. And that's what I was trying to get, right? I wanted this in terms of minutes. So I'm just going to write minutes over here. And I'm done with that part. Now I can just think about, what is 360 times 1 over 60? Well, it's basically the same thing as 360 divided by 60. And a lot of us can do that in our head by this point, right? 36 divided by 6 is 6. And basically we have a trailing 0 on each one, right? So you can just think about this as 36 times 10 up here over 6 times 10, right? Kind of break that down in your head. This over this is 6. This over this is 1. So basically we're going to have 6 minutes. But again, if you can't do that at this point, I don't want to lose anybody, we can just do our basic division, right? 360 divided by 60. 60 doesn't go into 3. It doesn't go into 36. It goes into 360, again, 6 times. 6 times 60, you can do 6 times 6, that's 36. And then put a 0 at the end, that's 360. Subtract and get 0. So again, we're going to get 6 minutes for our answer here, right? 360 seconds is going to be equal to 6 minutes. All right, let's take a look at another one. We have 15 quarts, 2 gallons. So what's the relationship between quarts and gallons? Well, this is one that a lot of us know because we buy milk, right? 4 quarts is equal to 1 gallon. So 4 quarts is equal to 1 gallon. So now that I know the relationship between the units, I want to end up with gallons, right? So because I'm going from quarts to gallons. So when I write my unit fraction, I'm going to put gallons, or in this case, 1 single gallon, in the numerator. So I'm going to have 1 gallon in my numerator, and I'm going to have 4 quarts in the denominator. And that's the trick, right? Just remembering, hey, the units I want to end up with, that's always going to go in the numerator. If you can remember that, again, you're going to be good to go. And we're multiplying this by 15 quarts. 15 quarts, what we're starting with. And again, the units here are going to cancel. This cancels with this, and we're just going to be left with this. And again, that's what we want, right? We're going 2 gallons. So now I basically have 15 times 1/4, which is the same thing as saying, what is 15 divided by 4? So let's do that down here. What is 15 divided by 4? 4 doesn't go into 1, but it will go into 15 3 times. 3 times 4 is 12. Subtract and get 3. Let's put a decimal point here and bring it up into the answer. Put a 0 here and bring that down. 4 goes into 37 times. 7 times 4 is 28. Subtract and get 2. Put another 0 and bring that down. 4 goes into 25 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract and get 0. So 3.75 is our answer. So 3.75. And of course we have gallons. And you can kind of think your way through that one. If 4 quarts gives you 1 gallon, well, yeah, if I had 12 quarts, that's 3 gallons. That's this part right here. And then I have 3 additional quarts, right? 15 minus 12 is 3. That's not quite enough to make another gallon because I need 4 quarts to make another gallon. So I just have 0.75 or 3/4 of a gallon remaining, right? So that's how I end up with this 3.75 gallons when we convert over from 15 quarts. So another thing you need to know is how to do multiple conversions in one shot. So I have here that you can also carry out multiple conversions in one shot. Let's suppose that you don't know the relationship between cups and gallons. So let's say that you're told to convert 25 cups to gallons. So what you know is that 2 cups equals 1 pint, 2 pints equals 1 quart, and 4 quarts equals 1 gallon. So using this information, we're going to go from cups to gallons. Okay, we're going to go this way. So let me just write these out real quick. 2 cups is going to be equal to 1 pint. 1 pint. And then 2 pints is going to be equal to 1 quart. 1 quart. And then lastly, 4 quarts. 4 quarts is going to be equal to 1 gallon. 1 gallon. So if I'm starting out with cups, which is right here, and I want to go to gallons, which is right here, I would first just think about converting cups to pints. So let's start out here. We have 25 cups, and I'm going to multiply this by 1 pint over 2 cups. 2 cups. Now, why did I do that? Well, again, I want to convert to pints to start. If I want to convert to pints, it's 2 cups equals 1 pint, so 1 pint is in the numerator, right? Because I want to go 2 pints, and 2 cups is going to be in the denominator. Now, this right here now would be in terms of pints. After I do this multiplication, it'd be in terms of pints. So I'm going to multiply again. Now I'm going to go to quarts. So I have the relationship between pints and quarts. I want to go to quarts, so 1 quart's going to be in the numerator. It's going to be in the numerator. And 2 pints is going to be in the denominator. Again, just put the units you want to end up with in the numerator. So this is going to put it in terms of quarts now. Now the last step is to put it in terms of gallons. So I have 4 quarts equals 1 gallon. So I'm going to multiply one more time. Again, gallons will be in the numerator, so 1 gallon will be up top. And 4 quarts will be on the bottom in our denominator. Okay, so this will put it in terms of gallons. And that's all it is. You're just doing multiple conversions at once. And if you're not comfortable with this, just do it individually first. Just do a part where you go, okay, 25 cups, I'm going to convert that to pints, stop, then convert it into quarts, stop, then convert it into gallons. But once you get good, you want to just do it all in one shot like this. Okay, so let's go through, and you can cancel out all the units. You're going to see that cups will cancel with cups, pint will cancel with pints, quart will cancel with quarts. All you're going to be left with is gallon right there. And let me kind of make that a little better. I cover up that 1. So you're just going to be left with this in terms of gallons. So now all we need to really think about is what numbers are involved. Because I know my units, I'm going to end up with gallons. And so I would just think about 25 times 1/2 times 1/2 again times 1/4. What's that equal to? Well, I know that I could just write this over 1. Just think about multiplying the numerators. 25 times 1 times 1 times 1 is just 25. And for the denominators, 1 times 2 times 2 times 4 is the same thing as 4 times 4. That's 16. So we have 25 over 16. That's just a simple long division. So 25 divided by 16. 16 will go into 25 only once. 1 times 16 is 16. Subtract here, we would get 9. Right? If I borrow from the 2, I put a 1 there and a 15 here. 15 minus 6 again is 9. Put my decimal point here and bring it up into the answer. Let's put a 0 here and bring it down. How many times will 16 go into 90? Well, 5 times 16 is 80. That's as close as we can get. So let's put a 5 here. Again, 5 times 16 is 80. If we subtract, we get 10. Put another 0 and bring that down. 16 goes into 100. I know 16 times 5 is 80. So 16 times 6 would be 16 more, or 96. Again, that's as good as we could do. So we'll put a 6 here. 6 times 16 again is 96. Subtract, we would get 4. Right? If I go through and do the official procedure, borrow here, this will be 10, and then it'll be 9, and this will be 10. 10 minus 6 is 4. 9 minus 9 is 0, and bring down that 0, I would just have 4. So I'm going to put another 0 here and bring that down to give me 40. So how many times will 16 go into 40? Well, only twice. Only twice. 2 times 16 is 32. Subtract and we're going to get 8. Right? Borrow from the 4, this will be 3. This will be 10. 10 minus 2 is 8. Put a 0 here and bring that guy down. Now I have 80. And we know that 16 goes into 80 exactly 5 times. 5 times 16 is 80. Is 80. Subtract and get 0. So we have our answer of 1.5625. So 1.5, let me scroll over a little bit so I can get some room going. 625, and then gallons. And it really is just that simple. We started out with, let me see if I can fit all this on the screen. We started out with 25 cups way over here, and then we went through and we converted basically one at a time, but in one shot, right? We converted to pints, then we took pints and we converted to quarts, then we took quarts and we converted to gallons, and then we ended up with our answer, which was, again, 1.5625 gallons. All right, let's take a look at one final problem. And we want to convert 4.5 days to minutes. So let's start out by looking at the relationship between minutes and hours. How many minutes are in an hour? Well, we know that 60 minutes equals 1 hour. And then how many hours are in a day? Well, 24 hours are in one day. So then now 24 hours equals 1 day. So we're going to go from minutes to days. So not really that complicated here. If we start out with 4.5 days, we're going to multiply by a unit fraction where hours is going to be in the numerator, because our first step is to convert from days to hours, right? We're trying to get to minutes. So I'm going to put 24 hours in my numerator, and I'm going to put 1 day in the denominator. Again, always what you want to end up with in the numerator. So this will put this in terms of hours. Now I'm going to multiply one more time to get it in terms of minutes. Right now I need to go from hours to minutes. So I want to end up with minutes, so minutes will go in the numerator. So 60 minutes in the numerator. And this will be over 1 hour. That will be in the denominator. And now this will be in terms of minutes, which is what we want. Right? We want to end up with minutes. Let's scroll down here. And you can see everything's going to cancel except for minutes. This will cancel with this. This will cancel with this. And this is what I'm left with for my units. And basically I just have 4.5 times 24 times 60. Right? It's just a multiplication problem at this point. So let's go down to a scratch sheet. What is 24 times 4.5? So 24 times 45. Forget about the decimal point for now. 5 times 4 is 20. Put a 0 down, carry the 2. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. So erase this. 4 times 4 is 16. 6 down, carry the 1. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. We'll add here, bring down the 0. 2 plus 6 is 8. 1 plus 9 is 10. So that's 1,080. Let me go back up here real quick. 1,080. So I'll put 1,080. And I have one decimal place between these two factors that I did. So that means I'm going to move the decimal point one place to the left. So basically that's going to give me the number 108. Now I still need to multiply by 60. But to save myself a little bit of time, remember I have a trailing 0 here. So I can just basically do 108 times 6 and then attach a trailing 0 to the end of that. So 108 times 6. 6 times 8 is 48. 8 down, carry the 4. 6 times 0 is 0. Plus 4 is 4. 6 times 1 is 6. So that's 648. And then we're going to put a trailing 0 at the end. 648. Put a 0 at the end. It's 6,480. So let me erase this. And we'll put that this is equal to 6,480. And then the units again will be minutes.